We don't usually do this, but I'm going green today, so I'm going to recycle words you've probably already heard, mainly because they're better than anything I could come up with.
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Electrifying. But today the grown-ups struck back, with one French minister criticising the 16-year-old for despair verging on hatred, and Chancellor Merkel ticking her off for ignoring the potential of green technology. I'm not a massive fan of Extinction Rebellion. I think they're dangerous extremists. But Greta Thunberg has every right to be furious at the world leaders who patted her on the head and then did precisely nothing about her demands. If they really respected young people, they'd start a serious debate about the real, brutal choices that we face. We should be talking about a carbon allowance that limits every household's car usage, central heating, electricity and consumption of meat, with a 100% tax on any energy used beyond that limit. A Trump-style ban on the $119 billion worth of cheap clothes exported by the coal-fired Chinese rag trade every year. And what about the population growth that Sir David Attenborough says is the biggest risk to the planet? How about imposing a one-child policy on the world's fastest-growing regions, Africa and the Middle East? Everything else is hot air. Will the next generation really give up cars, clothes and the right to have children? I'm sceptical.
I love it.
Oh.
I love it. Honestly. I mean, I agree with you. I think that I do. I absolutely agree with Trevor. I think we're reaching a point where we need actually a sort of war effort. We're in the middle of a mass extinction event and all we're doing is talking about Brexit. It's nonsense. I mean, I want Brexit done in order we can really talk about the important stuff and how we need to do much more on an individual level and on a governmental level to address this potentially planetary event that's coming down the track. I'm so glad I said that, Trevor. I mean,
I'm now speechless.
We never talk about population control. Of course we have to talk about population control, and world leaders have to say this loud and clear.
But they won't,
this is the biggest thing. We need David Attenborough to say it every day. Sorry, can we just hear what the global lead on climate change, ActionAid, Harjeet Singh, says in response to all this, which is, this summit was supposed to be a turning point, but we have seen an exceptional lack of commitment from the biggest and richest polluting countries that continue to take trivial measures towards solving a life or death crisis.
I'm going to come to Nick because I have a feeling that if I don't, he will explode and there will be an extinction of this studio event.
Well, welcome to the world of Chairman Trev, and Queen of the Court is obviously Queen Rach. A one-child policy? Really? So we've been in a position that have as many children as one? I really don't know. You talk about... Look, the passion displayed by Greta Thunberg is to be only but admired. But let's just row back. You've destroyed my dreams. You've destroyed my childhood. She's 16. There's a mass extinction starting. That makes it sound like the Khmer Rouge or the Holocaust. Are there issues to address? Yes, there are. Has she gone too far? I'm doing the politician thing here. Yes, she has, because she is frightening other children. I did this on my radio show, and it's amazing how many parents are saying that their children possibly don't want children of their own because they think the planet is coming to an end. It's not. Look how much we've advanced in our time. Just in my lifetime, almost, we've had the NHS, we've had some sort of drugs that keep people alive, we flow people to the moon.
We are incredibly... Population-saving
hold on. So we are genuinely frightening the children, and we have to be very aware of it. And one other thing, you made the point about coal-fired stations making these cheap clothes. Who are the people who buy these cheap clothes? Mostly 16-year-old girls who go to Primark or TK Maxx or Matalan and throw the bloody thing away.
This is exactly my point. If we're going to take young people seriously, let us engage with the actual point they're making, with which I have a great deal of sympathy. But let's not just pat them on the head and say, "Oh, that was very well expressed." Let us treat them seriously enough for us to talk to them about what the real consequences of this are going to be and the real choices. Otherwise, actually, we'll still be having this conversation, 20 years on, when the Maldives, and by the way, the country where my family comes from, Guyana, is under water.
But Trevor, I'm fairly pessimistic. I'm a bit like her. I'm fairly pessimistic. And the reason I'm pessimistic is we live in democracies. And democracies, the people who win in democracies are people who actually promise economic growth. They promise better for most people. Now, this is not possible in the world of her world. It's not possible that you can have, and she said that you can't have this never-ending economic growth, and yet no politician is going to stand up and say you can't have economic growth. You can only have one holiday every 5 years outside the country. No one is going to do it, and therefore we'll all make small gestures.
In that case, we shouldn't have UN summits. They should just shut up instead of pretending that they're doing something. This is exactly why we get to the place that we started this programme with, where actually there is a massive problem. Everybody knows it's a massive problem. Everybody shouts it's a massive problem, and then we produce a little mouse to deal with it. And the population says, "What are you for?" This is how we get disillusionment. This is how people think politics does not solve problems.
But are you prepared to dramatically change your life?
Well, the answer to that, Greg, is yes. If I am
so you don't want to go skiing anymore.
What I think
I would have to... You don't want to go on holiday outside the country anymore.
Well, what I think would happen is that I have to pay a lot more.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that.
You have to have a flight quota and maybe a carbon
But that
tax
in itself
allowance.
means that the poor suffer.
Yes. Maybe? Well, Michelle?
You described that speech as electrifying. I just thought it was a bit weird. I find it... No, I do. I understand the sentiment, but I just find it slightly exploitative when I think of Greta. I understand climate change is a huge issue. I do. I understand that actually we need to be doing something about it, but we're just missing, for me, the fundamental basic building blocks, because if we look at what can we do, yes, of course, these humongous initiatives need to be taking place, but on a daily basis, there are genuine small little things that we could be doing as a household that most people don't even understand what they are.
Don't eat meat, for example.
I'm going to eat a cheeseburger if I want a cheeseburger. I'm not sure it's going to lead to the end of days. No, I eat them a lot less these days than I used to, so I'm doing my bit for the environment.
Do you know why, though? Can we just talk about meat for a second? Because methane is 34 times more destructive for the ozone layer than CO2. So methane is a serious issue, and if we all cut
coming out of
meat,
both ends of cows.
If we did cut down on meat, it would bring home the bacon in terms of our carbon target reduction.
But educate households more about what we can be doing.
Well,
I was having this discussion with someone running a bunch of hotels the other day, and they said if you look at hotels today, if you look at people coming in to eat, it's about 50% still order a steak. And a great chunk still order burgers. It's got through to certain people, but it has not got through to the vast majority of people in this country. Mostly well-off people. And as I'm saying, in the end, this requires governments to do terribly unpopular things, and governments don't do that.
Thank you, Greg. This is essentially, my point is essentially one about politics. It is, we have to stop saying to people, the problem is gigantic and I am going to solve it, vote for me, and then produce remedies that look like that, because that is why people are losing faith in democracy. That's why Putin and Erdogan and Bolsonaro and these strong... This is why...
Chairman,
that's how these little strong...
about your one-child policy? Remind me of the democracy there.
Well, I agree. I mean, it
was your idea.
My point is, if you want to do something... I mean, of course, this is one of the things about China. I would never, ever want to live under the Chinese regime. But they are clear. They know what the scale of their problem is. So, actually, they are just doing things which are unthinkable in a democracy.
Every week.
Indeed, they're doing things which...
But aren't they offsetting as well? Aren't they quite on top of it?
But my point is, they define a problem and then they apply a solution which is of the right scale.
Some cities you can't go through in China.
Lord Putnam chaired an all-party select committee for House of Lords and House of Commons on climate change. He invited the Chinese to come and give evidence. They came and gave evidence. And they said, we don't understand much because we know there's a problem and we will do something about it because of our system of government. You won't. And I'm afraid that democracy doesn't know how to cope with this.
Yeah.
And there's no democracy here, team, because stop. This summer saw a masterclass of sporting prowess, and I think the team are having sport with me here, by the way. From Coco Gauff smashing it at Wimbledon to Tiger Woods' first major win in 11 years, it's been one for the history books. Now, while there were many standout moments, there's one event that topped them all. A personal favourite of mine, it says here, the Women's World Cup. Yes, the competition might have lacked a super over, but it broke barriers as well as records and grabbed the attention of the nation. But as its outspoken poster girl, Megan Rapinoe, reminded us, football still has a long way to go to become truly inclusive. In an acceptance speech like no other, the US forward urged everyone to change the world for the better at the FIFA Best Awards in Milan this week.
If we really want to have meaningful change, what I think is most inspiring would be if everybody other than Raheem Sterling and Koulibaly, if they were as outraged about racism as they were. If everybody else was that. If everybody was as outraged about homophobia as the LGBTQ players. If everybody was as outraged about equal pay or the lack thereof or the lack of investment in the women's game other than just women, that would be the most inspiring thing to me.
Back of the net for striking like that and giving us the kick up the arse we needed. Megan, it says here, you are our straight talker of the week. Now, you might tell Rachel a little bit... You're delighted, are you?
No, don't remember that's what she does whenever she scores a goal.
Oh, I wonder what you were doing there.
By the way, it's Rapinoe, not
Is it Rapinoe? Sorry, I apologise for that.
Rapinoe, whatever you call
my
her.
apologies, my apologies.
She's a superstar.
Women's soccer move forward?
Oh, yes. It's moved forward. It's still a long way behind, but it's moved forward very quickly. In this country,
Do you go and
particularly.
watch it?
No.
Actually, I've been watching it on television. It's a different game.
I've watched it on television.
But it's a fantastic game. I mean, actually, my eyes were opened.
OK, if I have a whistle, I'd blow it, because that's all we've got time for this week. But if you want to join in the debate, just search for The Pledge on Twitter. And don't forget, you can take the debate with you by listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever app you prefer. Thank you for watching.